Voting is the backbone of republics and representative democracies. Governments that rely on the public's opinion to choose who will lead the masses and what rules will be put in place. It's one of the things we identify as an important part of living in a free country. Many countries throughout the world have their citizens cast their vote for officials and policies, putting the power in the hands of the people. Sometimes, though, the voting process is just for show. The Jeju Uprising of 1948 and 1949 stands as a pivotal yet often overlooked event in Korean history. That tragic episode unfolded on Jeju Island, a picturesque volcanic landmass off the southern coast of the Korean peninsula. The uprising, which began as a protest against the division of Korea, quickly escalated to a violent conflict that had a profound impact on the island's population and left an indelible mark on the collective memory of the Jeju people. Jeju Island is South Korea's largest island at 1,833 square kilometers or 707 square miles. Along with its outlying islands, it's part of Jeju Province. Jeju is one of two special self-governing provinces in South Korea, meaning that the province is run by local politicians. The Jeju people are indigenous to the island, and it's been populated by modern humans since the early Neolithic period. Jeju Island holds a distinctive position within South Korea due to its geographic isolation. That separation from the mainland has led to the development of unique culture and linguistic characteristics amongst the island's inhabitants. The people of Jeju have cultivated their own language structures, socio-cultural backgrounds, beliefs, and religious practices, setting them apart from their mainland counterparts. The Jeju language is considered critically endangered by UNESCO. It is also one of the regions of Korea where shamanism is most intact. The island was formed by the eruption of an underwater volcano approximately 2 million years ago. At the heart of its enchanting landscape stands Hallasan Mountain, South Korea's highest peak at 1,950 meters or just under 6,400 feet above sea level. That dormant volcano, with its stunning crater lake called Bangnakdam, dominates the island's skyline and offers breathtaking views in every season. The Jeju volcanic island and lava tubes, recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, showcases the island's unique geological features. The Geomanorium lava tube system, regarded as one of the finest cave systems globally, stretches for an impressive 13.4 kilometers or 8.3 miles. Visitors can explore Manjangal, a 7.4 kilometer or 4.3 mile section of that system, which has earned a reputation for its outstanding natural beauty. One of Jeju's most distinctive features is the Gajawal Forest, the only one of its kind in the world where tropical northern limit plants coexist with polar southern plants. That evergreen forest plays a crucial role in maintaining the island's ecosystem and preserving its underground water resources. Another remarkable feature of Jeju is the Seongsan Ilchabang Peak, often referred to as Sunrise Peak. This dramatic fortress-like structure rises from the ocean formed by an underwater eruption approximately 5,000 years ago. Its unique bowl-shaped crater and steep cliffs make it a popular spot for watching the sunrise and studying past volcanic activity. For those who prefer to explore on foot, the Jeju Oli Trail offers an excellent opportunity to discover the island's hidden gems. That network of 27 routes covering 425 kilometers or 264 miles allows hikers to experience Jeju's diverse landscapes, from black volcanic rock coastlines to lush forests and picturesque beaches. One of Jeju's most iconic cultural symbols is the Haenyeo, or female divers. These remarkable women have been harvesting seafood from the depths of Jeju's waters for centuries. The tradition of Haenyeo dates back to the 17th century, when women began diving to support their families while men were away fishing or serving in the military. Haenyeo are known for their incredible breath-holding abilities, diving up to 20 meters deep and staying underwater for over 3 minutes without using any breathing equipment. Their harvests include a variety of sea life, such as abalone, octopus, and seaweed. The Haenyeo culture has played a significant role in shaping Jeju's semi-matriarchal family structure, with women often being the primary breadwinners. Today, efforts are being made to preserve the unique aspect of Jeju's heritage, although the number of practicing Haenyeo has declined significantly in recent years. The history of Korea is complicated and dates back to the Lower Paleolithic period when the Kingdom of Joseon was founded. It went through a period where 3 kingdoms ruled the peninsula, but they were unified at the end of the 1st century. In the late 19th century, as Japan became a global power after winning both the First Sino-Japanese War and the Russo-Japanese War, they took control of the Korean Empire. In 1910, Korea was formally annexed and a period of forced assimilation began. The Korean language, culture, and history were suppressed by the Japanese. The end of World War II brought significant changes to the Korean peninsula. In August of 1945, following Japan's surrender, Korea was liberated from Japanese colonial rule. However, that liberation came with a new set of challenges. The United States and the Soviet Union agreed to temporarily divide Korea and oversee the removal of Japanese forces. That division was implemented along the 38th parallel, a latitudinal line that bisected the country. The initial intention behind the division was to avoid a long-term decision regarding Korea's future. However, what was meant to be a temporary arrangement soon became more rigid. By 1946, Kim Il-sung had organized a communist government in the north, establishing the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. Shortly after, nationalist exile Syngman Rhee returned to Korea and set up a rival government in the south, forming the Republic of Korea. The division of Korea reflected the broader geopolitical tensions of the emerging Cold War. The United States occupied the southern half of the peninsula, while the Soviet Union took control of the northern half. That arrangement set the stage for ideological conflicts and competing interests between the two superpowers. The deterioration of Soviet-American relations in Europe had a direct impact on the situation in Korea. Neither side was willing to make concessions that might strengthen its adversary. That became evident when attempts to implement a revived trusteeship plan after the Moscow Conference in December 1945 failed. 18 months of intermittent bilateral negotiations in Korea couldn't reach an agreement on forming a provisional government, primarily due to Moscow's refusal to consult with anti-communist politicians opposed to trusteeship. The ideological divide between the two Koreas deepened as each side developed under different forms of government. South Korea adopted democracy and capitalism, while North Korea embraced a stringent communist system. That stark contrast in political and economic systems further exacerbated tensions on the peninsula. In the South, President Syngman reinstalled a repressive, dictatorial, and anti-communist regime. Meanwhile, in the North, wartime guerrilla leader Kim Il-sung imposed a totalitarian, Stalinist model for political, economic, and social development. Both leaders harbored ambitions of reunifying Korea under their respective political systems, which only served to intensify the mutual animosity and fear between the two sides. The tensions between North and South Korea continued to escalate after the withdrawal of occupied forces in 1949. Border skirmishes, espionage attempts, and kidnappings became frequent occurrences, further straining the already fragile relationship between the two Koreas. Despite its natural beauty and biodiversity, Jeju has faced significant economic challenges. The island's economy has historically lagged behind that of mainland South Korea, particularly in terms of industrialization and technological advancement. That economic disparity has led to a demographic shift, with many young and middle-aged adults leaving the island in search of better career opportunities and educational pathways. The lack of industrial development on Jeju has resulted in a unique economic landscape. The island's economy relies heavily on tourism and small businesses, with many of the remaining workforce employed in health and social welfare services to cater to the aging population. That economic structure has further contributed to Jeju's distinct identity within South Korea. Jeju's unique position extends to its political leanings as well. The island has historically demonstrated more left-leaning tendencies compared to much of mainland South Korea. That political orientation is rooted in the island's history and its experiences during the post-World War II era. South Korean liberals who have a strong presence on Jeju tend to have a more nationalistic nature based on anti-imperialism, particularly in matters related to neighboring powers such as Japan. They also maintain a stance of seeking strategic autonomy in foreign policy while maintaining cordial relations with the United States. Those left-leaning tendencies are reflected in various aspects of Jeju's social and political landscape. For instance, South Korean liberals have been at the forefront of representing Korean victims of Japanese war crimes since the 1990s, a cause that resonates strongly with Jeju's history. They have also advocated for reforms to address the monopoly of large industrial conglomerates known as chaebols, which aligns with Jeju's economic structure that is more reliant on small businesses. However, it's important to note that the left-leaning nature of Jeju's politics doesn't necessarily translate to progressive stances on all issues. South Korean liberals, including those on Jeju, tend to be socially conservative on matters such as LGBTQ rights, disability rights, and minority issues. That complex political identity further underscores Jeju's unique position within the broader South Korean context. The May 10, 1948 elections for the Constitutional Assembly played a pivotal role in sparking the Jeju Uprising. Those elections, held under U.S. military occupation and supervised by the United Nations, were intended to establish a new government in South Korea. However, they were met with significant opposition, particularly on Jeju Island. The elections were controversial for several reasons. Firstly, they were held only in the U.S.-administered southern part of Korea, as Soviet forces and Kim Il-sung refused entry to UN supervisors in the north. That unilateral action was seen by many as an attempt to solidify the division of Korea, dashing hopes for reunification. On Jeju Island, the elections were viewed with particular suspicion. Many islanders saw them as a U.S. military government attempt to establish a separate southern regime and install Syngman Rhee as president. That perception fueled the growing discontent among the island's population. The election process itself was marred with violence and intimidation. Syngman's supporters, including police and right-wing youth groups, patrolled towns and villages, threatening his political opponents. Reports emerged of beatings, robberies, and the removal of ration cards from those who refused to register to vote. Despite those issues, the elections proceeded on May 10th. Out of 200 available assembly seats, Syngman's supporters gained 55, while independents took approximately 80. The voter turnout was remarkably high at 95%, which some interpret as a sign of faith in the democratic process. However, that high turnout may have been influenced by the coercive tactics employed. The South Korean Labor Party was at the forefront of opposition to the elections. The SKLP, which had significant support on Jeju Island, decided to protest the elections, viewing them as a step towards dividing the country. Approximately 20% of Jeju Islanders were linked to the SKLP by 1948. The organization's opposition was not necessarily against democracy itself, but rather against the division of Korea. They had called for peaceful protests against the elections, including a demonstration on March 1, 1947, which defied a U.S. order allowing only one official state-sponsored celebration of the March 1st independence movement. As the elections approached, the Workers' Party of South Korea hardened its stance. WPSK leader Park Han-young called for members south of the 38th parallel to oppose the elections by any means necessary. That led to a general strike beginning on February 7, 1948, and escalated into attacks on government installations and open conflicts with police forces. During election week, guerrillas cut telephone lines, destroyed bridges, and blocked roads to disrupt communications. The WPSK Women's League campaigned for residents to hide in the mountainous regions controlled by guerrillas the night before the election to avoid being forced to vote. As a result, Jeju had the lowest voter turnout in all of South Korea, leaving its 2 seats in the new National Assembly vacant. The uprising on Jeju was not solely driven by opposition to the elections and separate governments. Local grievances played a significant role in fueling the discontent that led to the uprising. Following Japan's defeat in World War II, Jeju experienced a massive population increase as islanders who had left in search of work returned. That reverse migration doubled the population in a matter of months, exacerbating existing poverty and economic struggles. The island faced fewer jobs, lower wages, and a major rice shortage. The presence of extreme right-wing groups, particularly the Northwest Youth Association, further aggravated tensions on the island. Those groups controlled food rationing, imprisoned many islanders, and attacked civilians believed to be communists or communist sympathizers. Their actions worsened the ongoing rice shortage and contributed to the growing resentment among the population. For many Jeju residents, the uprising amounted to a protest against those extreme rightist groups and the harsh conditions they imposed. The South Korean Labor Party, taking advantage of the increased poverty and population pressures, took charge of organizing that discontent into a more cohesive movement. Those local grievances, combined with the broader political tensions surrounding the elections and the potential division of Korea, created a volatile situation on the island. The culmination of those factors led to the last major protest in April of 1948, which is known as the Jeju Uprising. The South Korean Labor Party played a pivotal role in the incident. On April 3, 1948, the SKLP initiated an armed struggle against the US-backed Korean police and right-wing paramilitary groups. That uprising was a response to the impending South Korean elections and a demand to halt police aggression on the island. The SKLP's objectives included promoting reunification, independence, and save-the-nation ideas. In the early hours of April 3rd, approximately 350 guerrilla fighters associated with the SKLP attacked 12 of the 24 police stations on the island. The insurgents employed guerrilla tactics, targeting police stations and burning down polling centers to prevent the election and denounce the US-controlled government of Syngman Rhee. Following those initial attacks, the SKLP guerrillas retreated to Hala Mountain to evade government retaliation. The response to the uprising was swift and severe. The U.S. officially declared Jeju to be a red island in order to hunt for all residents identified as associated with communists. That directive, referred to as the Red Hunt, lasted more than 7 years. The mainland sent around 1,700 military forces to Jeju, and between March and May of 1949, approximately 10,000 people were detained. On November 17, 1948, just 4 months after taking office, President Syngman Rhee declared martial law on Jeju Island. He then ordered the South Korean military to implement a scorched earth strategy against the remaining guerrilla fighters. The Syngman government deployed the martial law army and proclaimed that anyone caught within the Chungsangan area would be identified as a rioter and killed immediately. Over a 5-month period, 95% of the Chungsangan village was burned down, forcing survivors to seek refuge in the mountains. The Korean army and police force demonstrated extreme brutality during the operation, which started in mid-November of 1948 and lasted approximately 4 months. Soldiers laid siege to mountain villages, setting fire to every house and indiscriminately slaughtering residents regardless of age or gender. That strategy resulted in the destruction of 95% of mountain villages, and between 80,000 to 90,000 villagers were forcibly relocated to internment camps along the coastline. The responsibility for those actions has been attributed to both President Syngman Rhee and the U.S. Army military government in Korea. Despite the establishment of the Republic of Korea, the U.S. Army military government maintained operational control over both the Army and police through an executive agreement signed by Syngman and U.S. Lieutenant General John Hodge. That agreement allowed the U.S. to continue directing military actions throughout Korea, including suppression efforts on Jeju Island. The uprising resulted in a significant loss of life and displacement of the island's population. It's estimated that between 25,000 and 30,000 people, representing approximately 10% of Jeju's population at the time, were killed in the conflict. That staggering loss of life had a profound impact on the island's demographic makeup. Additionally, the violence forced many residents to flee, with an estimated 40,000 people seeking refuge in Japan. The destruction of villages and homes further exacerbated the demographic shift. Of the 400 villages that existed on Jeju before the uprising, only 170 remained afterward. Approximately 60% of the villages were burned to the ground and over 39,000 houses were destroyed. The widespread devastation led to a significant reduction in habitable areas and contributed to long-term population displacement. The Jeju Uprising and its aftermath had severe economic repercussions for the island. The destruction of infrastructure, including homes and villages, necessitated extensive rebuilding efforts. The loss of a significant portion of the working-age population, either through death or displacement, further hampered economic recovery. Prior to the uprising, Jeju was already facing economic challenges. In 1945, before liberation, Korea had a real wage per capita income of $103. By December of 1947, shortly before the uprising, that had decreased to around $30. Jeju, being possibly even poorer, was particularly vulnerable to economic shocks. The aftermath of the uprising exacerbated those economic difficulties. The destruction of agricultural land and livestock, combined with the loss of skilled labor, led to reduced productivity and economic output. The island's economy, which was primarily based on agriculture and fishing, took years to recover from the devastation. Then there was the lasting cultural trauma that was left on the island's population. The effects of the catastrophic events on collective consciousness and cultural identity can be defined as cultural trauma, according to sociology professor Jeffrey Alexander. That trauma has manifested in various ways, affecting multiple generations of Jeju residents. The new generations were disconnected from their past, creating a rupture in the transmission of cultural knowledge and traditions. For decades, the memory of the civilian massacre and its aftermath was suppressed due to the anti-communism stance of the South Korean state. It wasn't until the late 1980s that the Jeju Uprising entered public discourse. That long period of silence and suppression further compounded the cultural trauma experienced by the island's residents. The process of healing and reconciliation has been slow and ongoing. In 1999, the South Korean parliament passed the Jeju 4.3 special law for fact-finding and reputation recovery to establish truth, restore the honor of victims, and provide financial reparations. In 2003, South Korea's President Roh Moo-hyun apologized for the government's role in the uprising. Despite those efforts, the impact of the cultural trauma continues to be felt. The divergence between national official memory and family individuated memory has emerged, creating a complex landscape of remembrance and reconciliation. Ongoing commemorative public projects, including regular memorial ceremonies, a memorial park, and public shamanic rituals for the consolation of the dead victims, have been realized to address this trauma. Those efforts to address that dark chapter in South Korea's history have gained momentum in recent years, with official recognition, apologies, and reparations marking significant steps towards healing. However, the process of coming to terms with the past remains ongoing. The uprising should be a reminder that, despite the illusion that you're being given a choice, you might still be punished if you disagree. Thanks for watching This Is Monsters. New episodes are uploaded twice a week on Mondays and Thursdays. There are occasional bonus episodes covering unsolved cases and criminal history. If you have a suggestion for a case you think I should cover, leave it in the comments. You can always follow the channel on Instagram at thisis_monsters and purchase merch at thisismonsters.com. Thanks so much, and be safe.